Good morning and welcome to Best Brands on Earth from the Cleos. I'm Matt Kerbal.
Hello. Oh, hello, Matt Kerbal. I'm Hayley Clover.
Hello, Hayley Clover. How are you today?
I'm good. I just made myself some hot water with lemon, which is how I tend to start most of my days. I don't know if you have like a morning routine that you always follow.
I do. I tend to go for coffee and a bunch of like supplementy, vitamin-y things.
Hmm.
But then I basically go straight into parent mode and I'm frantic and trying to think about all the things that we need to do for them.
Yeah.
Usually because I sleep in too long and Ashley gets up at 5:45 without any
Ooh.
issues to work out before the day. Yeah.
I mean, that's so smart. I have a feeling once you become a mom too, your body is just always kind of like feeling like it needs to be awake and like needs to be doing something, which is like unfortunate for moms. But I could see why you would be the person to wake up early
I
and just like
mean,
have a moment to yourself before all the stuff happens.
yeah, her job is crazy. She goes into the city multiple days a week.
Hmm.
So it's just and like, we have two boys who are activity laden and now in camps, and it's like there is no time
Yeah.
otherwise. Fortunately, I work from home, so I
Yeah.
can skedaddle for a walk and do a little bit of a workout in our home gym slash office area, and it works out really nicely. But yeah, I think for her, it's like shit. If I don't get it in, it ain't
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. It's good. She needs
Yeah.
it, deserves it.
What's going on with you? What's as we say, what's in your feed? What are you consuming? What are you seeing and
Well,
and paying attention to right
it's not that I want to talk about TV like every time you ask me this question, but
now?
unfortunately, I am somebody that watches a lot of TV. Fortunately, unfortunately, I think it's just
Yeah.
the way that I wind down. But I am heavy. Actually, my algorithm has two things right now. I'm heavy
Hmm.
in the on-campus algorithm.
Okay.
I am the typical like mid 30s obsessed with these young college hockey players that are they just happen to be incredibly attractive. I'm
Yeah.
happily married,
I
but
mean,
they're also
attractive hockey
attractive.
players are definitely trending right now.
Totally. And I'm here
Whether
for
watching or reading about them.
right. Yeah, I'm totally here for all of it. And then the other thing in my feed right now is the College World Series, actually in Omaha,
Oh,
Nebraska, because my husband works for a licensee of Nike. He's
yeah.
there right now to meet all of the teams that are there, give them like all of their accessories, custom gear, and stuff for the teams that have made it. And so I started getting into this Omaha algorithm on Instagram. Fun fact, one of the like top rated Michelin starred sushi restaurants is in Omaha, Nebraska.
No way.
Isn't that crazy? So
Huh.
I keep sending things to Rob, like, I know you don't really have time, you're working, but you should go find this place because it looks incredible. And I just, yeah, you'd never expect it from a landlocked state to have like an amazing sushi
No, I do
restaurant.
not think about sushi. I think about two things. I think about Peyton Manning yelling Omaha, and I think about the Counting Crows and the
Okay.
song Omaha. By the way, Omaha, just fun word to say. Omaha.
Omaha.
Very fun.
But yeah, apparently good food. I mean, they have good steak. They have like there's a highly rated ice cream place there. So now I'm just getting all of these things in my feed about Omaha, Nebraska.
Sounds like we're recording in Omaha soon.
Right? I've never
You
been,
know,
so I'm kind of like, sounds fun.
I've driven through.
Hmm.
I've driven
That's
through.
probably a bunch of
Lovely.
people's stories. Yeah.
Lovely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somewhere in middle America, as the Counting Crows
Hmm.
say.
Yeah.
Um, we've been watching The Testaments. Did you ever watch?
Mm.
Did you ever watch
I haven't
the
watched it, but I've seen like clips of it.
the OG Handmaid's Tale?
Yeah.
It's an
You like it?
incredible. Yeah, it's really really good. I don't think we quite expected it. And I don't think it's been getting like Handmaid's hype.
Yeah.
But man, first season, whoa.
I like
So
the
good.
one main actress was in that last what was it called? Leonardo DiCaprio's movie that they just won the Oscar for.
Oh,
another battle, or what was it called?
One battle after another. Yeah.
One battle after another. Thank you.
Oh, that's
and
right.
I don't remember her name, but she's one
Oh,
of the leads.
she's
She
the
was fantastic
daughter.
in that movie. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I'm now
Yeah.
putting this together.
I should watch it because I really love The Handmaid's Tale, but I got Handmaid's Tale fatigue by the end. It was like it went too long, or they like didn't wrap the story up quick enough for me, or
It's
something.
nice to have like a first season of this again. That's a different but related plot, and like Elizabeth makes like so Offred, she makes like some cameos, and it's a nice kind of connective tissue. Cool. Also, holy shit, the Knicks.
Oh my God. That was okay. So I turned it off because it's neither of my teams. It's like whatever. They were down by 30. That was never supposed to.
No, I did the same, and then I went back to my app just to like see what the final score was, assuming that like they won by like, I don't know, 12. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, it's tied, and there's 30 seconds left.
Luckily, my family chat was going off, so I was able to turn it back on to watch the last like 4 minutes. But yeah, New York, it might as well have been like they won yesterday. The streets
probably,
of New York, I mean, maybe better. Yeah, they had. I had friends texting me yesterday. We have a bunch of friends in New York, and the streets were literally just like full of people. Cars couldn't move. Everyone was honking. People were out on their fire escapes. Like it looked awesome. The vibe there was incredible.
I mean, man, if they don't finish the job and they lose 3 in a row, the city will burn.
Yeah, I will say I saw some like not so great videos also of Knicks fans like beating up Spurs fans for no reason. You're like,
yeah, I mean, this is such as sports, and having that many people in one place. Not okay. Also, probably important that we remind people right now that like these episodes will go live over the course of the summer, but we are recording when we record, and so this happens to be June 11th, which is also International Day of Play. And it is the official start of the World Cup. So excited for Canada and the US to play tomorrow. Mexico, Viva Mexico today. Gonna be awesome. What else? I'm kind of obsessed with what Coors Light did. I don't know if you've seen this.
The extra tall can was incredible.
Yes. So the taller boy. So first of all, for anybody that doesn't know, Coors Light, basically, like if you think about, you know, when an announcer announces a goal in soccer, they're like, goal, and it goes on forever. And so Coors changed Coors to Coors, which is amazing. And so they're on billboards everywhere, and like there's extra long billboards, and it's so good. But then if you haven't seen, they've created these 3 beer in one giant 18-inch like this big, like tall, they call them taller boys. So good. And Sophia Colucci and team, if you are listening right now, you are #winning, my friends. This is brilliance. So good. And a lot of people will drink a lot of Coors Light because of them. And then, okay, randomly, other thing in tech, I saw that Visa plugged its payment network into ChatGPT. That was announced yesterday. So now apparently AI agents can shop and pay for me. So the question is like, 1, like, do you trust that? 2, does AI have le taste? Right. Like I can't wait for ChatGPT to like buy me capri pants.
I was going to say, so can you write into ChatGPT and say, I am a guest at a wedding coming up in Italy, and I need a specific like black tie dress. Can you find me a few options? And they can go in and like literally search the web and buy it for you?
TBD. I don't know the like extent to which you need to give permissions and that kind of stuff. But yes, it seems like that is the way we were going. Wow. I mean, it was inevitable, but also wild.
I don't love the idea of chat or any of them having my credit card info, my address. Like, listen, do they probably have it already somewhere? Yeah, probably.
Absolutely.
But like, I don't want to actively feel like I'm giving them that info.
No. Oh man, it's all happening. It's all. They're growing up so fast. The AIs, they really are. Okay, so as we always do, I have a song, and it's a great one today. I will play it and I will explain it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. So, Viva la World Cup. This is Die Die by Shakira and Burna Boy, the new 2026 anthem, not to be confused with the incredible anthem from 2010, which was Waka Waka, this time for Africa, which a lot of people know Shakira for. I love watching. I have like the music video, like all the kids dancing and everything. Like I still remember where I was when I first heard the anthem back in 2010. So this is a really cool song. I'll tell you why. The origins are dope. Like, so Shakira's Colombian, Burna Boy is Nigerian. It was co-written with Ed Sheeran, who is English, and then in the song, the anthem mixes Japanese, Spanish, French, and English phrases, and the title comes from an Italian expression meaning "let's go." So like,
awesome,
so cool, so thoughtful. Shakira gives me the warm and fuzzies, like Zootopia and all that shit, which frankly makes me think of today's iconic guest, who also is all about helping people feel good and feeling more alike each other than not like each other, more united than divided. And it's not, well, I guess technically it's a company, but it started as one man. In fact, that is his last name. His name is Dhar Mann. So
Dhar Mann.
Should we let him in and say what's up?
Yeah, I'm super excited.
All right.
All right, we are so excited today. Oh my gosh, our guest is somebody that has built one of the most unexpected media empires on the internet. After scaling a cosmetics business, LiveGlam, to 8 figures, he founded Dhar Mann Studios in 2018. And that bet has since turned into over 170 million followers across platforms and more than 20 billion.
With a B.
Yeah, views.
Wow.
That's like insane. The studio produces scripted and unscripted content built around a single idea: that stories can make people better. He's a Forbes top creator, the first creator ever to sign an original deal with Samsung. And most recently, he inked one of the biggest creator deals in history, a 40-film partnership with Fox. Oh my God, this is incredible. Dhar Mann, welcome to Best Brands.
Welcome.
Thanks, guys. I'm super pumped, and I love how you guys like build off each other. It's awesome.
Yeah,
that's just loving this energy.
That's just that's just a regular Tuesday for us. How you doing? Where in the world are you right now? You at home? Or
I just got back to LA. I was in New York for a few days. I just hosted my first award show, which was a lot of fun.
Amazing.
And now we're in the process of moving back into my house, which is why I have totally empty bookshelves behind.
You know what's funny is I was actually gonna
books. They're just not here right now.
I was actually gonna mention that I kind of loved that the background was empty like that. Like, it's fun to see everybody's stuff and all the things that they collect in their house, but there was something really nice and like relaxing about it being empty too.
Well, and
people listen to audiobooks now anyway, or watch videos. We were just talking about how it'd be fun to do like a scripted video series to piggyback some of the iconic stories that you guys are going to have on the pod. Yeah. But yeah, at the time of this recording, you guys have not launched yet. So I am putting such good vibes that when this comes out, your guys' podcast is going to be topping charts. You guys are going to be crushing it. You guys are going to be building one of the best businesses of all time. So I'm excited.
Well, appreciate it. And also, same to you, my friend. You launched What Happens Next, which I was listening to recently, or actually I should say I was watching. You interviewed Derek Huff, which is just like, man, what an episode. And I just saw that him and Hayley went on, I think it was GMA, talking to Strahan and gave an update. And for anybody that doesn't know, Hayley had like a pretty, not this Hayley also, although spelled the same, a traumatic brain accident and injury in 2023, and has since completely rebounded. They just had a kid, I think a little bit younger than yours, Dhar, and Yeah, just an incredible show. So plug for What Happens Next, which is Dar's awesome podcast. And then also congrats on Unlikely Romances. That looks like it's going to be really, really fun too.
Thanks. Yeah. Unlikely Romances is our first original series for Samsung, and it was inspired by my own love story. I'm so blessed to be able to tell stories that are inspired by my own life. And so with Unlikely Romances, I'm an Indian, grew up Sikh, very conservative parents that, came from India. My wife is very liberal, open-minded parents. They're Hispanic and Christian. And so it was just a lot of judgment, when we got together. And so I decided to create a series about how love doesn't always follow the rules. And, we live in like this society that just has all these expectations, right? About how you're supposed to love and live and work. And the series, I just got some numbers back. It's doing really well. So I'm glad that it's resonating with everyone.
Here, man. Good vibes for sure. And yeah, I watched the promo of like the kid who thinks that the boy has a crush on his girlfriend, right? And then they keep pushing him, and then he opens his locker, and actually his crush is the boy, not the girl. And it's so true, like there's so much sort of judgment out there, and I think that it's just so special that you're showing that like love can come in all these different forms and can be things that are unexpected.
It's so nice to have a platform too that essentially gives people permission to be able to do what they feel instead of feeling like they have to get permission from family members, parents, friends. It's a really cool safe space, I think, that you've created.
Yeah, it's interesting to me that as you guys are going to be having conversations with so many founders and execs from the best brands in the world, so many people start something based on their own pain in life, or something that comes from their mom wound or their dad wound as a child for something that they didn't receive. So I spent so much of my life trying to fit in, trying to find a community. Like I mentioned, I was the only Indian kid in my entire city, and I never quite felt like I fit in. So ultimately, I got to a place, later in life after failing quite a bit, which I'm happy to get into in this podcast, where I realized that there's a lot of other people out there that also feel like they don't fit in some box, or that they didn't live their life according to the path that they were supposed to follow and all the expectations on them. And so, from someone who had no friends to now someone who has like one of the biggest communities on the internet, it was that wound, ultimately, something that I didn't have as a child, that led me to being able to create this. So one of the things I say is like, whatever your greatest struggle is, that somehow becomes your greatest superpower. So whatever it is that, you're lacking or you feel like is a thing that you might be embarrassed about, can oftentimes be the thing that makes you the most relatable to other people, because we're all going through very similar things. Even though the world is so different and divided, if you actually sit down and we talk about our life experience together, we all have the same feelings of heartbreak and disappointment and not achieving your goals and whatever it is. The whole Dhar Mann Studios, it wasn't built to be a company. It wasn't built to be a studio. It was built on a mission of just trying to help people overcome difficult times in their life. So it's incredible to see how far it's come, but it also just goes to show like how much that has resonated with people.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because it started in your bedroom. So it definitely wasn't meant to be a studio. At first, the studio was your bedroom. But was there a specific moment where, the kind of trials that you talked about and you had been through switched to, I kind of need to like help myself get out of maybe this mindset? And that's why I started making this, content to not only help others, but probably like subconsciously help myself also.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I turned 30 years old, I was just at the lowest point in my life. Everything, like a lot of people, they have a dream as to what their life is going to look like, right? Yeah. And you want to feel like you're going to make a difference in the world, that you're going to be remembered, that excitement as a kid that you had as to what you're going to do is somehow going to manifest, and you're going to live the life that you've always dreamed of. And then myself, just like many other people, I got to a point in my life where I realized that my life was not that. And it happened on a milestone birthday. I turned 30 years old. I was at the lowest point of my life. I was celebrating my birthday at a bar with a couple of friends, and I didn't even have enough money to pay for the bar tab. And I remember that as the bartender was like ringing us up, I had so much anxiety that my credit card was going to be like declined, and it was going to be so embarrassing on my birthday. But luckily someone else slid their credit card in right before. So I saved myself from embarrassment. But, I was going through a bad breakup. I was going through family problems. And I was about 2 weeks away from getting evicted from my apartment.
Wow.
And so, just at that point where it just felt like my life was over, right? Like nothing was going to pan out. And what happened was I started reading different stories at that point. And I would read stories of successful people that I looked up to. And one of the things that I learned was a commonality between all the successful people that I studied is that everybody encountered tremendous failure on their way to success.
Of course.
I always thought that failure was the opposite of success, but then I realized, no, failure is just the pathway to success.
Yes.
It is saying that you've tried all these things that did not work, and now you are getting one step closer to the thing that is going to work. Or like Thomas Edison said, I've not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that haven't worked.
That's right.
So I got inspired as I heard stories about, Michael Jordan getting cut from his high school basketball team and then going on to be one of the greatest basketball players of all time, or Oprah getting fired from her job as a news reporter, or Walt Disney going bankrupt so many times on his way to building Disneyland. And so I thought, okay, well, hey, if other people have failed so much and still went on to succeed, that maybe all of my failure was actually not an indication that my life was over, that my dreams are not going to work out. Maybe this is just one chapter in my book, or several chapters in my case, in my book, and that this wasn't my entire story. And so that really motivated me to keep going. And then I started to think about how many other people out there were just at a place of, feeling the same type of way that I was feeling, where they just thought that their dreams hadn't worked out, that they were lonely, isolated, feeling hopelessness, which, by the way, is at an all-time high right now.
Yeah.
I read a stat that it's about 1 out of 3 adults in the U.S. now report feeling lonely.
Yeah.
And so, if you think about it, if you're struggling, you're not alone. There's a high likelihood that someone that you love, someone you work with, or you yourself is battling something that other people can't even see.
That's right.
So what I decided to do was try to speak to that person. And I was like, well, if I can speak to that person and let them know that they're not alone, and also maybe share some of my own life experience about mistakes that I had made, maybe I could help them realize that life can go on, life can get better, and then avoid some of the same mistakes that I made. So I started just, speaking on camera. I would go, it was just my personal Facebook page. This was in 2018. I uploaded my first video on my birthday. And right before I hit upload, I was really, because I was starting to create content in my 30s, which is a lot later than a lot of people who started social media career.
Have more experience though, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And, but I was going through the same thing that a lot of people go through. And, maybe you guys are at this stage, but you guys, I don't think are at this stage because you have so much confidence from all the success that you built. But for me, I was just like failure after failure after failure, right? So in my mind, I'm like, who am I to create content, and what are people going to think? And is this going to work? The same types of, things that hold so many people back from going after their dreams. But then I get into the realization that because I was doing this for the cause and not the compensation, or for the mission and not the money, it didn't really matter if 1 million people saw this video or one person saw this video. So I hit publish on my first video. And it's a good thing that I had that mindset, because only one person did watch my video.
Amazing. Thanks, Mom.
Mother-in-law. My mom isn't really on social media.
That's okay. Fair enough.
And, yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, first of all, like it's really such a tumultuous time, as you said, and so many people are turning to AI. There are a lot of people, particularly who are trying to speak to Gen Z and destigmatize, talking to somebody. But I love that these are stories that take the pressure away from that, right? Of having to find an answer, like seek it and put the pressure on yourself, and as instead be inspired by others, and also to know that they're not alone. And I think that that's been so important. I mean, we've all definitely overcome things. You're right. It's actually absolutely a natural part of the journey, whether it's losing a loved one, or being laid off, or having a breakup, or whatever, of which, like, I've had all of those things, right? And many of us have. So we're all, I think, so glad that you hit publish and continue to hit publish. I think one thing I'd love to ask about, though, is, I think around that time, you and your partner, your better half, Laura, who is also pretty well known, you started LiveGlam, and you built this incredible, company that was doing 8 figures in annual revenue, and it's got millions of social media followers. So as you started doing these videos, and you started shifting your attention, like, was that an intentional thing? Did that kind of organically happen? Like, I know that LiveGlam is still very successful, is great, is humming. Obviously, the majority of your attention is focused on Dhar Mann Studios. So how did that kind of happen? How did that shift manifest?
Yeah, going back to, the point where I was like 2 weeks away from eviction, it wasn't the videos that got me out of the financial hole. I didn't, that one view didn't monetize that well, as you
totally.
Shucks.
And, it took me about 100 videos before I got one to go viral, right?
Okay.
And even then, you don't get eligible for monetization right away with social platforms. So it took me several months from that point before I started generating any revenue. But at that point where I was 2 weeks away from eviction, I was just, reading stories. I was meditating. I was praying. I was just asking God, like, look, please, I will take any opportunity to help me avoid the embarrassment of having to move back in with my parents at 30 years old. And especially as an Indian man, right? And keep in mind that in Indian culture, you're supposed to be one of 3 things, right? Which is like a doctor, an attorney, or a failure, right? It's one of those things. And so for me to go and say, hey, I'm going to be like a social media content creator, I'm going to move to Los Angeles because I grew up in Northern California, I was just always seen as this black sheep of the family.
Yeah.
And, and not only that, I would say, like, of the Indian community, because I came from a very conservative culture that, I used to have a turban growing up as a kid. And so our temple and like the religious community saw me as someone who was following the path.
Yeah.
And then as I got older, I cut my hair and I didn't, wear the turban and stuff. And so I was just sort of seen as the outcast. And then because I'd gone through so much failure, it was like, see what happens when you don't follow the marching orders, right? So it was even more embarrassing for me and feeling so much more pressure that I was feeling at this later age in life. At least at that time, 30 years old felt really old. And now I'm in my 40s and I'm like, oh, wow, when I hear someone's 30, I'm like, you're so young. It's funny how life works that way. But so, I was like just praying for any sort of opportunity to help me avoid getting evicted from my apartment. And one day I'm at this lunch and I happen to overhear this conversation of this makeup artist where she's telling people at our table that she's flying all over the world to be teaching these sold out makeup classes. And she was saying that her biggest, she was charging like $350 a pop, that she was traveling to all these different countries. Her biggest limitation was that she didn't have enough bandwidth to go to all these cities. And I was like, well, why don't you just take your model online and teach live online classes? And keep in mind, this is in 2015 or so. There was no Facebook Live. There was no Instagram Live, like live content. I think at that time there might have been like Meerkats, or I don't know if you remember, or Periscope, if that's the right.
Yeah.
Periscope.
Very novel thing at that time. And so she looks at me and she goes, oh, that's a great idea, but I wouldn't know how to do it. And I just blurted out, I can do it, even though I had no idea about how to build a website or an online school or a subscription service. I definitely didn't know anything about makeup. But, what do they say? Necessity is like the mother of all invention. And I was just at a place where, a lot of times there's an opportunity all around us in life, all the time. And a lot of times it's just our own mind that doesn't see it. So one of my favorite quotes is like, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And I was ready. I was just like anything, right? Just God, give me any sign. So she says this, and I say that I can do it. And she looks at me and she goes, all right, like, let's do it. For whatever reason, I said it, I guess, with enough conviction that she believed me. So we created a 50-50 partnership. I had $600 left in my bank account. I went to Best Buy. I was like, all right, well, I got to learn how to like stream an online class. What do I need? They're like, well, you're going to have lights and a camera at minimum. So I was like, what's the cheapest setup I can get? So for $200, I bought softbox lights and a webcam. I had $400 left in my account. I go on Craigslist and I was like, hey, can somebody build me a website? And they were just like, sending me, I was getting so many messages saying like, $400, you're crazy, like, get out of here, you don't belong on this website, all these mean emails, which I totally understand, by the way. And, building a website back then wasn't like building a website today where you can do it.
Still, just say sorry and good luck.
Yeah. One guy, for whatever reason, I kind of put like a heartfelt message out there as a listing. And this one guy was like, look, I'll do it for $400. And if it's successful, pay me on the back end. And I was like, perfect, let's do it.
Great.
So, keep in mind, I had 2 weeks left to pay rents. Like, rent, I think with my small little apartment was like $1,000. So I couldn't afford that. Yeah. And so by this time, I'm like less than 7 days away from eviction, right? And so we come up with the launch day. It's a day before my last day to pay rent. And this person, she was famous on Instagram. She wasn't like famous on any other social platform. That was her one platform. So she had, probably like 1.5 million followers there. Our idea was that she was going to post on her Instagram to promote the school. And then our thinking was, if we can convert some of her followers to sign up, it would be live online classes taught by her. You could sign up for $20 a month, and then you'd be able to access the content behind a paywall.
Yeah.
So we created the website. The next day we were supposed to go live, and she was going to make the announcement on Instagram. My web developer tells me, hey, we need some sort of video on the website to explain what the school does, but we need to host the video somehow. So I was like, oh, okay, well, how do we host it? He's like, well, we could publish it on YouTube. And at that time, I'm probably like, what's YouTube? Because I didn't even know. Again, it wasn't as popular as it was today. So he's like, why don't we just publish it on YouTube? I was like, that's fine. She had no YouTube presence. So we published a video on YouTube explaining how the school works. We link it to the website. So that way, if you come to the site, you get this explainer video. I go to bed that night and we're going to launch. She's going to make the announcement on Instagram at noon. I wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning. My email is flooded. New member. And so I quickly go on the makeup artist Instagram, like, did she launch early? And there's no announcement. And so I call my web developer and I was like, hey, like, what happened here? Like, this glitching, look, we got to fix this. She's about to announce. And then he's like, I'll call you back. Like, let me figure out what happened. He calls me back 5 minutes later and he goes, Dhar, those are real subscribers. Then I was like, how is that possible? We haven't even announced it. It turned out by publishing that video on YouTube has its own algorithm, of course, right? Yep. And so that video ended up getting traction. Enough people saw it that they ended up finding out about the school, signing up. Within 24 hours. We made $250,000 from that. Lord. And so I went from literally like days away from eviction to now having this thriving subscription model business.
Oh my gosh.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. And so that school was a big success. My wife, which is a whole funny story on its own, she was one of the models. I'll save you the story of how I met my wife. I assume you want to talk about other business stuff, right? But yeah, that was a really funny story. My wife ended up being one of the models. She was friends with a makeup artist. That's how we met. It was a wedding makeup shoot. Like, so my wife shows up in this wedding dress with no makeup on, and she has no
Amazing.
idea.
You saw your future flash before your eyes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we joke around and say we got married the day we met. And then, I just continued to sort of expand that, went from education to working with more makeup artists to then eventually starting our own product line, because my wife had like a beauty background. So we partnered together. Our relationship kind of
also
started
serendipitous.
And then we started like a full, range cosmetics line through that. Because I had the subscription experience that I gained through the education, we applied that to the cosmetics business. And then through that, I basically learned content creation.
Yeah.
And so I started to see the power of social media. And then I was helping all these influencers to create viral content. So I also started learning. And I had the studio where we had the gear, we had the team, we had everything. So even though I was building a cosmetics business, I was really sort of building the expertise as to how to create content, how to go viral. And so I was very fortunate to be able to sort of climb out of that bad financial hole I was in, get to a great place in my life. But even though my life was turning around, I was making money, I was in this relationship, we got this new apartment, something inside of me just felt like it was missing. I don't know if you guys have ever gotten to a point in your career where everything on the outside feels like it's successful, but on the inside, you feel like you're not really fulfilling your passion.
It's funny. Like when I've told people about what I'm doing now, they said to me, I'm both shocked and not surprised at all. Because on one hand, I've been, building brands for basically the last 20 years. On the other hand, they're like, dude, like you were meant to do this. Like, it's you're a very curious person, and this is gonna be amazing, and this is just kind of like the next chapter. And I agree. Like I felt that pull where like I could have, gone to some other brand and run it back, and new team, new challenge, which is what I've been doing for a long time. And I was like, no, I think you also feel like there's a level of sort of self-actualization, meaning growth that you want to achieve, and you won't achieve that unless you put yourself outside of your comfort zone. And it also just felt like what you just said really was like kind of hitting me, because I'm like, man, I know that feeling of like watching things randomly kind of line up and being like, oh boy, like I can't ignore this thing that's kind of put itself in front of me. And I mean, I even met Hayley through interviewing on her former podcast. She interviewed me, and it was like actually our sort of off-camera banter where I was just like, oh, this is great. She's like sarcastic. She's from Buffalo. I'm from Toronto. Like we're like same, but also very different. So yeah, man, I really appreciate that. And what a story. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And I mean, what you're describing is basically the hierarchy of needs, right? Yeah. Like we all have certain physiological needs, which is like food, water, warmth, rest. You have safety needs, right? You need a roof over your head. But beyond that, that's just like the basic needs that humans have. Then you go into the psychological needs. Yeah. And so we need to feel belonging. We need to feel like we have some sort of sense of accomplishment. Yeah. And then self-actualization, which is like the highest level of the pyramid. Yeah. That's ultimately, I couldn't stop thinking at that point in my life about all those people. Like I was so glad I was at a great point in my life, but I just could not stop thinking about the people that were still stuck in that place that I was at 30. So ultimately, that's how I got into my journey of creating content.
Well, it's really, I think, even more so inspirational because of the age that you were, and the fact that you, not that you necessarily fell into it, but you did something else to help you learn how to do what you ended up doing. And I think a lot of times now, even with social media, is kids feel like they have to be super successful by like 22 years old. And it's this like crazy phenomenon where you have no idea who you are at 22 years old. You're not supposed to know what you're, should be doing for your whole life. Or if just because your friend who's 22 happened to figure something out early doesn't mean that you have to. And it's that pressure and that cycle of seeing it all the time that makes things, exponentially
crazy
harder.
growing up with social media, like natively
and
from the
so
time when you're young.
Yeah. So to have somebody, that you can look up to on those platforms like you, who can say, hey, didn't have it figured out, at 25, didn't have it figured out at 28, still didn't even totally figure it out at 30, but I started to be on a path where I really thought like this could be it, and started to kind of figure out that purpose. Like, yeah, that is.
And also it got really hard before it got easy. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Really,
it's not
really
supposed
hard
to be easy. Yeah.
So as you get into Dhar Mann Studios, to DMS, like there's so many stories that you could tell, right? there's so, I mean, and by the way, you basically do tell all of them because you have this crew that's working around the clock. But every business has its prioritization and kind of has its kind of pillars it wants to work on, and then say no to everything else. So like, how do you and your team think about, is it thinking about on a scale of importance? Is it reacting to the zeitgeist at that moment in time, like what you feel like is people really need, or is it, hey, we kind of have this roadmap, this narrative? Like, take us inside a little bit of how you guys think about what content you should cover.
Yeah, great point. Great question. So let me just start by saying as quickly as possible what a Dhar Mann story is for those that don't know.
That'd be great.
So the best way for me to describe what a Dhar Mann story is just by telling an early life experience that I had that was motivation for one of my first videos. So every Tuesday night, I used to feed the homeless with my wife in downtown LA. One night I'm out and there was this guy that I wasn't sure if he was sleeping, if he just had his eyes closed. I didn't want to invade his space, but I decided to leave a meal in front of him. And as I'm walking away, this guy in the suit comes up to me and he goes, do you realize how many homeless people there are in downtown LA? I mean, look around you. Do you realize how many homeless people there are in California or even the world? Like, do you really think by feeding
you'd go broke, like helping all of them or whatever? Like these
or that
comments people
nothing
make.
was ever going to change was like the point that he was trying to make, which is, it was something that I started like looking around and be like, maybe my work isn't really making any difference, right? Mm-hmm. And then as I'm contemplating that homeless guy that I helped, he comes up to me and he goes, excuse me. He's like, I was closing my eyes because I was praying to God that I didn't go to bed hungry that night. And when I opened my eyes, I saw this meal in front of me. So I just wanted to say, God bless you. So as he walks away, I turn to this guy in the suit and I'm like, maybe I can't change the world, but I can change the world for one person.
Yeah.
So that early experience became one of our most viral videos because in the beginning, I would tell stories about things that had happened to me. So what makes a Dhar Mann video different than like a normal drama, if that's the genre you want to think about how we operate, is that our stories actually start with the moral.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The moral is first. What is the message that we are trying to convey to the world? And then what is the moral story? And then how do we build an interesting story around it? So our stories are entertaining enough to get kids, like a young audience, to want to watch it, but they're educational enough for parents to feel very happy that their kids are watching it. And, with 170 million followers across platforms, you could probably imagine we dip into all sorts of audiences.
Multi-generational.
Exactly. Multicultural. And then our story structure in itself is a little bit different because we operate in a social first world, right? So prior to us, there was really no scripted studio that started on digital and reached the scale that we did. Most storytelling you think about traditionally is greenlit by a studio. Like you have an idea for a script. Before you even write the script, you probably want to get like a studio to endorse it. Some people write a script and then you have to try to find a studio that's going to pick it up, and then they're going to hire a production team, they're going to set a budget. So you're always at the mercy of the network, the studio, and at the greenlighting process. But for me, I was just trying to help people. I wasn't trying to get a studio deal, or I didn't even know what live action filmmaking was. I was go to film school. I didn't take any screenwriting classes. Like, it was just me giving advice in front of the camera, and nobody was watching those videos. And so just like any entrepreneur, right, like you continue to pivot. And we ultimately landed on asking my friends and family members to be in videos. And I would narrate them. And then eventually, you know, we had like dialogue and film crews, but everything was still shot in my studio. It was just my studio apartment. Our gear was just an iPhone, right? Like all of our sets was just like my bedroom, my dining room, my kitchen, right? So everything was as scrappy as you could imagine. And then as time went on, like we had that DNA, because traditional filmmaking, if I had went to film school, if I had done things the traditional way, they would have told me, I would have said, oh, I need 100-person crew. I need $1 million. I need this massive budget. And I would have spent all my money on my very first video. I mean, more than all my money. I would have gone into debt, taken every loan available to me, like produced my first video. It would have flopped. And then I would have ran out of money and then spent the next 10 years trying to pay off that debt, right? But because I didn't know any better, I was just asking for friends and family and shooting things as scrappy as I could. Yep. But it picked up because these types of videos just had a lot of heart. And then our audience became the vehicle of distribution. Our audience was sharing these with friends and family and saying, oh my gosh, like, this is the message that we've been trying to share with our kids. We couldn't say it in our words or get our kids to listen to us, but maybe they'll watch this video. Or, oh my gosh, like this, I haven't talked to my mom in 3 months because we argued over this. But after watching this video, it made me realize that time is limited. I really do need to call my mom. So we started getting all these comments from the community that was like, this video made me cry. This video helped improve my relationship with my spouse. This, right? So that was where the mission base was coming in. And then the style of story structure is also different for us. Like if you think about most storytelling, you have an audience that's sitting down in a theater seat or sitting down on a couch. Mm-hmm. That gives you a lot of room to be able to tell a story and build like exposition and then have rising action, and then you go into your climax, and then ultimately falling action and resolution. But on social, you're always at the mercy of just someone flicking their thumb. That's how easy it is to go to the next piece of content. So like, you know, as you're consuming content, I mean, now a lot of digital content, especially on YouTube, has shifted to the television screen. So, you know, we actually have a little bit more grace. But still, you know, for anyone watching on a phone or even YouTube on their TV, you're always at the mercy of just being one flick away from like them tuning you out. And so our story structure has to start with immediate action. Yeah. And then you almost get into a climax, or what we call a faux climax, and then further rising action, climax, twist, resolution. So our story structure is also different because of the audience that we're catering to. And then, you know, everything we do in-house, because we have our own studio, right? We have about 250 plus team members. We work with thousands of actors on an annual basis. We put out about 5 hours of premium scripted content every single week. We're able to do everything by having all of those resources and teams in-house. So in traditional filmmaking, you usually will hire a crew for one project. You go and do that project for a year or a couple of years, and then you come back and then you wait to see how that film did while you're waiting for your next project to do. But for us, we're just always creating content because we're not waiting for a network to give us a slot or studio time. We get to distribute directly to our audience through social platforms. And so because we do everything in-house, we have our own writing team, our own casting team, our own directors, editors, producers, stunt choreographers, school teachers, wardrobe, makeup, every single aspect, you know, we're able to do in-house, and these teams are able to communicate with one another. So we have a really well-oiled machine. I hate to use that word, but just in terms of like our process for content creation. And now, you know, it's picked up so much. I'm so grateful that now we're starting to get opportunities even outside of social. So even though, you know, we succeeded because we did everything sort of like in the opposite way that traditional did things. Now everything is kind of coming full circle where we're starting to see more than ever, studios, networks, traditional players that are interested in working with creators. And so more content is starting to live beyond social as well.
And we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. I just read the craziest stat. Over 3 billion people open fortune cookies in the US per year.
3 billion?
Billion with a B.
What? Say more about this.
And so I learned that these guys open fortune, they own the fortune cookie, and they're putting brands now inside of this cookie and distributing their messaging through 100,000 restaurants, reaching 300 million people per month.
Okay, I just Googled them. They've worked with is this right? Mr. Beast, SoFi, Bayes, Duolingo, Dr. Squatch, Liquid Death, Waymo, Manscaped, Dude Wipes, Hard Rock, Verizon. I could literally go on. That's crazy.
Yeah, all of them. They're creating these amazing, what they call mini billboard moments inside of these fortune cookies, catching people at a time where they're just not expecting to see an ad. It's a really cool Trojan horse marketing idea.
I should have thought of this.
If you're interested in learning more, which you should be because this is just incredibly cool, head to openfortune.com.
Best Brands on Earth is brought to you by Tracksuit. Every CEO and CFO wants to know what impact is brand driving for our business, and that's exactly what Tracksuit has set out to answer. Look, most brand teams are either working from stale data or stitching together proxies, Google Analytics, social numbers, the odds survey, whatever, that tell you about your existing customers, but not how the total market actually sees you. Tracksuit is continuous monthly brand tracking. You see what's moving, what's shifting, what your competitors are doing in the category fast enough that you can actually do something about it. And the dashboard is modern, it's beautiful, it's shareable, it's the kind of thing that you'll actually be happy to open. So if you want to find out what your brand health looks like and how you stack up against your competitors in your category, head to gotracksuit.com now.
This episode is sponsored by the Clio Creator Awards presented by YouTube. The creators shaping culture deserve recognition for more than views and followers. Clio Creators celebrates the originality, craft, and impact behind today's most creative work from creators, brands, and agencies around the world. Submissions are open through August 22nd. Visit clios.com to learn more and enter. Well, so I want to talk a little bit about, you do unscripted work as well and create that content. But before we get there, just talking about kind of bridging that Hollywood gap, you're the first creator to sign an originals deal with Samsung. And now you've signed one of the biggest creator deals in history. It's a 40 film partnership with Fox. So that's one, congrats, huge. It's amazing. But when was it, I guess, that you realized that DMS wasn't just a digital media company and that it could be something that Hollywood really should be taking seriously?
For me, again, I just am so connected to the mission. All I really care about is how do I inspire people around the world, get through some of their toughest times in life. I don't think of this as how do I get people to take me serious, right? I think of it as I'm just on this journey to help inspire other people now. I'll read an article and they'll be like, industry veteran or Titan, Dhar Mann. I'm like, what? When did I become all these things?
You're like normal guy.
Yeah. I'm grateful for all these things. I happen to be at a time right now where we're at an inflection point and we're seeing, the old model for content creation doesn't work. We live in a world right now where you can create a feature film for $75,000 like Obsession and do $250 million at the box office. Storytelling you don't need to spend hundreds of millions of dollars or millions of dollars in years to make a film that really moves people. If you can connect to an audience and move them emotionally, which is what we've been doing since day one, then you can get them to care and build a very viable business from that. So for me, I think when things change is when we started getting acquisition offers.
Okay.
So at that time, I wasn't interested in selling because, again, I wasn't trying to build a company or a studio. Right. But of course, at the same time, I want to think about the future of our employees. I want to think about, how do we continue to fulfill our mission? And if there's more qualified people out there to help me scale it.
Yeah, globally. Yeah, for sure.
So the CEO of the company that was trying to buy us, Sean Atkins, we got really far in the due diligence process and we bonded so much. We built this amazing bromance.
Former president of MTV, correct?
Right? Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
He's just an industry veteran. He's one of the smartest people I've ever met. And I was like, Sean, instead of buying us, why don't you join us? And, for whatever reason, he really just believed in the mission, and we bonded so well that he decided to take a leap of faith, and he left, this massive company to come and join a YouTuber. So we were one of the first YouTubers to hire a CEO. And when he came in, then I started thinking about, all right, well, how do we continue to scale this mission? That's when we started creating partnerships with traditional platforms, and we built an in-house brand division. We went into verticals. We created, a linear TV division. Now we're going into SVOD, and we just launched our podcast. Yeah. So before hiring Sean, 95% of our revenue was just from YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah.
And as much as people are trying to now crack into YouTube, it's still scary to have a business that's that dependent on social platforms. And so now that Sean has come in, we have about 40% of our business now. Within 24 months of him coming in, only about 40% of our business derives its revenue from social platforms. Just to kind of give you an idea as to how much it's expanded beyond that. So I would say, having acquisition offers, bringing in a CEO, and then him bringing in other professional studio execs. There's this thinking that traditional is disappearing and being replaced by creators. And I say, no, traditional is not disappearing. The line between traditional and creators is disappearing.
Yeah.
And so having someone like Sean in gave us the experience and the resources and contacts of
and the kind of context, right? Of what are they thinking about? Yeah.
Yeah. And then with me being a creator, I still bring the scrappiness and the agility. So that combination has been incredible. I've always said that I'm the gas and my wife is the brake. And so now we've got Sean, who's a steering wheel. So
we're almost to the whole car.
I love it.
So now it's all right, well, we're actually navigating.
Well, and so speaking of best brands on earth, and you said you had people approaching for acquisition. I'm sure you get approached all the time now by brands, and it's been really, really fun to watch you do stuff with Gap Inc. and Old Navy, to do stuff with Adobe, to become the chief kindness officer of the NFL, which how did that happen? That's awesome. But would love to understand, how do you think about, what do you say yes to? What do you say no to? What are you and your team looking for in terms of opportunities to create a 1 + 1 = 3 with other amazing brands?
So what's interesting is, even though we have this massive platform and all this viewership, we, just to give you some sort of comparison, do about 400 million long form views a week. Wow. So that's about, 2 to 3 times the amount of the Super Bowl audience every single
When
week.
I go back and watch this episode, I feel like I'm going to have to take a shot every time I say, wow. It's not going to end well for me.
And, we have this big reach of 170 million plus followers. We still struggled to get brand partnerships for much of our existence. So for the first, we just crossed our 8th year. For our first 6 years, we pretty much did virtually no brand deals. Mm-hmm. The brand opportunities that we would get, they were more one-off transactional. And I was I don't want to promote a brand in one video and then a competing brand in another video. That would seem so inauthentic. But when brands would try to allocate marketing dollars towards YouTubers, they wanted spectacle-based creators. They didn't understand a scripted YouTuber. Wait, so if we're going to advertise in scripted, we're going to spend money on TV. We're not going to go to YouTube. And so I would get a lot of people saying Dhar, if you just change your content and you become more spectacle based, hey, why don't you start exploding Lamborghinis and doing all these things that other YouTubers are doing, you'll start to get brand deals. And I was I was at sort of this crossroads as to, I wanted to take on brand partnerships because that would allow us to tell more ambitious stories and grow. But at the same time, I didn't want to alienate our mission.
Yeah.
I was at this important crossroads. I decided that no, we have to stick to our mission, even if that means not getting brand partnerships. So I made that decision 2 years ago. And then what has happened now? Brands, especially in this world of storytelling, are looking for emotional connection more than ever. And who has an audience that is emotionally connected? That is what, Dhar Mann Studios is most known for. 3 out of 4 of people that watch our videos say that they are inspired to take some sort of positive action after watching one of our videos. We have like one of the highest trust factors out of all, not just YouTubers, but global entertainment. Like someone that watches a Dhar Mann video is 13 times more likely to want to buy a Nike product than if Nike themselves was to try to advertise a product, because we have that deep of a connection with our audience.
Yeah.
So because for a long time, we, didn't alienate our audience, we stayed true to our mission. That in the past 12 months really has really worked to our favor, because now brands who are looking for more storytelling and direct connection with their audience, they've come to us, and that's led us to incredible partnerships.
But that's got to be hard, right? Like it's got to be hard to not come off as inauthentic, like hashtag Nike partner sponsored, whatever, right? Yeah. Like that must be so important up front to, one, make sure, of course, from a value standpoint, it's the right partner and all that. But two, what is the angle? What is the execution? How do we bring this to market such that our audience is proud and excited and wants to tell somebody else about it that then can join the Dhar Mann community?
Exactly. And, I think it's a great time because brands are very focused on that. There's such a high consumer ad fatigue where people don't want to watch something that they're just waiting to skip. Trust is at an all-time low. And brands are realizing that they've been optimizing for conversion and bottom of funnel for so long that now that everyone's got AI powering their ads, like everything is 100% optimized. Yes. So how do you actually grow your consumer base? You have to actually focus on top of funnel. Yep. And so top of funnel has become more important than ever. And how do you do that? By telling stories.
Yeah, creating emotional connections. Yeah.
Exactly. Like having an audience that actually wants to watch and feels like the content and commerce, they don't have to be at odds.
Right.
The right piece of content actually amplifies the commerce, but a consumer doesn't even realize that they're being sold to. Instead, they can see themselves as part of your story, as part of your mission.
So smart. It's like, if I think about the NFL, and how it's been diversified from an audience standpoint because of, Taylor and all that stuff. But kindness is universal. And to know that, the NFL is taking that seriously and to the next level, to be able to do something as public as this. I think about what the NBA has done in Africa, and some of these incredible initiatives around the world. Like Goodwill, it's so ironic because it is so powerful, and this is just brand in general, but particularly when you do it through the lens of societal benefit. It's so intangible and so hard to measure that brands don't nearly do it enough. But then when they do, they always say, wow, that was so important. Like I think about why I bought my first Toms, why I bought my first Bombas, right? Like it's baked into their business model. And it doesn't surprise me that if somebody is going to be 13 times more likely to purchase Nikes because of an affiliation with Dhar and everything that you guys stand for, versus like, we all know, like if you have a body, you're an athlete, and we all know that, people around the world wear Nikes to, be fashionable or play sports. But like, what about actually it stands for sportsmanship and respect and teamwork and overcoming adversity and all these things that Dhar Mann stands for. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dhar, now that you've gotten to this point where obviously the mission's not done, but you've done a lot of what you probably could have ever dreamt of, like in your wildest dreams, how does it feel? Have you given yourself a second to like sit back and go, holy shit, I did it?
You always think that as an entrepreneur, that there's this point that you're going to get to the top of the mountain and you're going to be like, I'm here, I did it. But what powers every entrepreneur is that your dreams are always bigger. I'm sorry. I was with Jeffrey Katzenberg and he told me this, so I don't want to butcher this. He goes, basically it's like your vision always has to be bigger than your dreams, right?
Right.
But
I mean, founder, CEO of DreamWorks. Yep.
Yeah, sorry. I'll remember.
No, but
or make it more human than you didn't remember it. But yeah, I mean, basically, you're always thinking about you're one step away, right? And happiness is around the corner. But I realize that is just something that you never quite get to, and it's always elusive. And still, what makes me the most excited and happy is what drove me in the very beginning when I used to read comments from people that were just like, this video, helped me reconnect with my child or made me call my mom. Or like if I'm at a gas station and a mom comes up to me and she goes, Dhar, like, I just wanted to say thank you because watching my videos of my kid has helped our relationship so much.
Yeah.
And it helps them understand the lessons that I've been trying to teach them, but they'll never listen to me, but they're willing to watch a video.
Yeah.
So, just hearing the impact from somebody who was inspired by the video ultimately means more than like any sort of number on a video or whatever else. So I'm very, very grateful to be at the place that we're at and to be a guest on this podcast. What an honor.
Sure. Well, I have a in the spirit of kind of like being imperfect and human, I have a bit of an interesting question, which is, like you're a girl dad of 3, you're crazy busy, you're probably flying all over the place, you're moving right now, right? And then also like, your wife is also a public figure. So like a couple things, like one, how does it feel, to Hayley's point, that like, do you feel like you have to put it on all the time, right? Like that's obviously been a massive change in the last few years.
People expect you to be like the positive person always.
Yeah. And then I guess the other question is like, do you feel guilty when you're not that person? Like do you ever feel like you're playing a character versus just this is authentically who Dhar is all the time? Does that make sense?
Yeah, great question. So first off, I got that quote. I had to look it up. So
I love it.
Never let your memories be bigger than your dreams. That's what it is.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I know. That's awesome.
Never heard of it.
Great question. I mean, first off, you probably, for anyone watching the video, you see me cycling between like a green juice and a energy drink right now. That definitely helps. The most draining thing in the world is not being your authentic self.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier, where you could have an occupation and you're thriving and you're crushing it. You're making all this money. You have some fancy title and you can feel completely drained inside because you are not living your purpose.
Yeah.
And so for me, I am so grateful that I get to do what I literally dreamed of, what I started doing without knowing I could ever make $1 from it because I loved it so much.
Yeah.
And when I try to meet people and they ask for some advice, or I feel like I have to be this positive role model, I don't try to say some sort of witty statement that they're going to remember. I actually find it most meaningful when I immediately just think about what went wrong in my life, how I failed, how I didn't get that right. Like if you were to tell me, hey, as a dad, can I have advice? If I was just to say, do this, this, and this, right? You might remember that for a couple of days or something. But if I tell you like a story of how I felt like I let down my daughter and it crushed me and I went to bed like in tears and I woke up in the morning and here's what I decided to do, you're much more likely to remember that. People are actually, there's like a stat.
And to your point, take action on it.
And to take action, exactly. Yeah. So I don't try to be, the brand is not perfection. The brand is not polish.
Right.
The brand is actually imperfection.
Right.
Mm-hmm. What's funny is that I had this speech that I had to give right before the Super Bowl. So one side, it was Neil Mohan, the CEO of YouTube. Yeah. On the other side of me, it was Roger, the commissioner of the NFL.
Yeah, Goodell, yeah.
And so I have like all this pressure, of these two icons next to me, and I'm speaking in front of all these creators, and I have to give them this inspiring speech. And, a lot of times I go off the cuff, but I didn't want to mess this up. So I like wrote this down and I memorized all my lines. I start speaking for 15 seconds and my mind goes completely blank. The worst nightmare.
I've been there.
Any public speaker, right? Like if you're hearing this, you might have like goosebumps just thinking about what that would feel like, because public speaking in itself is stressful. But like imagine
your
being
heart
in front
races.
of people and your mind is completely blank. So I paused. I took a breath. Everyone clearly knew because it felt like an eternity, but in reality, it's probably like 30 seconds. I just looked around the room. My mind was stuck. I tried to remember my lines. And then eventually, my brain started working again. And I just started completely over from the beginning. And then, I was able to finish it. And afterwards, I was just like, I am so humiliated. I'm so embarrassed. People came up to me and was like, Dhar, I've heard you speak so many times. That was the best speech that you've ever given. I was like, how I messed up? And they're like, that's what makes it human.
Yeah.
That's what makes it real. So if you don't cut the part of me stumbling, trying to remember Jeffrey Katzenberg's line or whatever, someone's going to be like, wow, this feels authentic because I've always been there. So I never try to be polished. Good. I just try to be a person. And that's what really resonates with people.
It's true. I mean, there's nothing more annoying than somebody that is just totally acting like there's nothing wrong when we all go, we know there's something wrong. Even if you just stubbed your toe, it doesn't have to be anything giant, but there's no way you have gone through, your whole day or your whole week without something, feeling a bit off.
There's a whole psychological term for this called the Pratfall effect, which is, there's many studies, and one of them is, I think it was done over Yelp reviews for a long period of time, and how people actually trust restaurants that have 4.5 out of 5 over 5 out of 5, because then they're like, who's doing those reviews? It can't be perfect. It's so true. Yeah.
Imagine if your podcast was just like, I want.
Yeah.
Who would want to listen to that? I'd be like, well, okay, that's not how my life is going.
No.
Yeah. So true.
What makes it so interesting is I lost.
Right. No, I told Hayley, our little guy woke us up a few nights ago, and he had a bad dream, and he said it was about zombies and that mom and dad were the zombies. And I said to Hayley, we don't watch zombies, but I love his imagination. But if you could just not wake us up tomorrow night and think that we're zombies, that would be great. It's this is real, this is, and to your point, whatever you're drinking, an energy drink over here. And so, no, I love it. And we will not edit that out.
All about
Imperfection is so important. So just fast forward, just a couple questions looking ahead. One, we have to ask, how do you think about AI in terms of your business and maintaining the authenticity, the human touch, et cetera. And also how people, you talked about it. So many people are using AI for therapy, for companionship, are using it for their mental health, which, TBD as to whether that's a net good or net negative. So how do you think about that? And then the other question is, you talked about, don't let your memories be bigger than your dreams. If and when Dhar Mann Studios is around, and call it 20 years from now, kind of what happened? What is that? What a little bit of what that vision looks like. You have the Mr. Beasts of the world who are creating consumer products and chocolate bars and game shows and all this kind of stuff. I'm sure you have a very different vision, or maybe not, but I think the AI question, and then a little bit about what Dhar Mann Studios looks like in the future.
For sure. I hate to give you a cliche answer about how I think AI is just amplifying creativity and not replacing it. No, but I found that in my own personal workflows, right? I definitely have tried to write a full AI script, or we've tried having entire AI scenes or atmospheres. And very quickly, our audience is quick to call that out.
Yeah.
And I was actually relieved because that is not my preference for storytelling. I know like within China, for instance, 50% of all vertical dramas now is 100% AI generated content. So it's interesting to see how different parts
That's a crazy data point.
Are reacting. But I think in the US, like we're still very far from that. For me, what AI has really helped with is like, let's say I can plug in my last 100 videos and I could say, hey, based on our click-through rates, based on our average watch duration, based on our retention graph,
engagement,
exactly. Feedback, based on all these stats, give me titles that you think could work that would do well. Similarly, what are the sort of interesting story structures that could work well based on these 10 high performing scripts? Or take a script and then tell me what feels wrong, or make sure I end on a cliffhanger, have interesting transitions, develop characters, right? So it can definitely help in that way. And because it's able to help make things more efficient and scalable, ultimately it's going to drive down the cost of production, which for us just means we produce more stuff. Right? So ultimately, like jobs are shifting a little bit from one thing to the next, but at the end of the day, it means more content. But you know, some of the nuances are, let's say that I was to take all that data and say, based on these top performing videos, now give me recommendations for new titles. Everything's going to start to feel the same. Right? Like if Nike was to plug in years ago and say, take all of our highest performing shoe sales and give us what shoe we should make next, they never would have came up with Air Jordan. It takes human innovation to create something that's really special and that's different than what anyone thinks about. So I never lose sight of that. And so, yeah, AI has helped enable a lot of things, but it definitely has not replaced things. Sure. And then as far as like the future of Dhar Mann Studios, you know, one of the things I'm so blessed about is that our content, unlike other content creators, does not actually rely on me or my face. And so when you think about most creators, YouTubers, the business depends on them. So they're, you know, they're often writing, they're producing, they're directing, they're editing, but they're also the on-camera talent. And so even if they're able to build teams around them, they can't replace them being the talent. And because I'm not, the stories don't depend on me being on camera, we're able to scale well beyond me, which is why we're able to put out as much content as we can. But I think the big shift that we're focusing on now is IP development. Right? Like all of our stories, in a sense, like all of Dhar Mann almost is like one franchise, and it's episodic content where you can just watch one episode at a time. But what would our version of Stranger Things look like? Or you know, Wednesday Addams, or right, like Game of Thrones? Like what is that version? So this next phase of our studio is going to be really focused on IP generation, which is ultimately what leads to consumer product goods and experiential, you know, experiences. And so, yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. Amazing. All right. We have three last sort of rapid fire questions. The third last one is actually a segment by one of our basically our founding sponsor, Open Fortune. And we call this Crumbs of Wisdom. And so Open Fortune is actually an advertising platform that turns fortune cookies into one of the most effective brand touch points in the game. And so you're talking about basically using the fortunes on the inside to become mini billboards and putting them in front of basically hundreds of millions of people per month through tens of thousands of restaurants. So basically we have this bowl of fortune cookies. Each of them has a question in it. The beauty of this is that we have no idea what the question is going to be. So I will turn it over to Hayley.
Okay, let's see. And then I get to eat the cookie, which is nice. Nice bonus. Okay, Dhar. What's the thing you believe about creativity that most people think is naive?
Is naive. Yeah, just the naive part is
Or what's the thing that you think about creativity that most people think is
taboo?
Yeah.
True.
I mean, it just kind of goes back to what we were talking about in our brand is like the beauty is in the imperfection. So my whole podcast, it's inspired by the art form Kintsugi. And
it's like one of my favorite principles ever. And I was sorry. This is a perfect opportunity for me to get to tell everyone I went to Japan.
Please take it away if you want to.
No, totally kidding. It's like a great online joke of anyone that's been to Japan always looks for an opportunity to tell people they went to Japan. But I did buy a plate from this beautiful, tiny, like hole in the wall Kintsugi repair shop in Kyoto. And I have this plate and I love it. But it's like my favorite principle. Please.
Okay, so I know wabi sabi, but what is Kintsugi?
So there's this Japanese art form Kintsugi where broken pottery is repaired with gold. They don't hide the cracks, they highlight them. Because the cracks are actually what make the piece more beautiful and more valuable and more meaningful. And so I think people are the same way, creativity too. What makes us so beautiful is not that we never break, it's that we break, we heal, and then somehow we come back with more wisdom or more compassion and more purpose than ever before.
Yeah.
So, for anyone that's in a season where they feel like they're falling apart or breaking, just remember that your life is not over. A new version of you is being formed, and that version will be more beautiful than even the original.
What a great answer.
Yeah,
man.
that was great.
I love that principle awesome. Too. Well, and now I very much need to go to Japan. Okay, last two questions. One is not about your brand, but what is a brand in any industry that you think has really done an incredible job of making people feel something, just like kind of lives rent free in our psyche and in our culture, that you admire and study and want to tell other people about?
I'm amazed by how many small businesses there are like on TikTok that I discover every day where you can just really see the owner of the business and you get an insight of what their packaging orders. They're writing little hand messages. Like I think the world is starting to shift back into that. The hard part is like, how does that scale, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think businesses can kind of start that way and they might lose their way. I think, we've seen like a recent phenomenon of like Red Lobster, let's say, and you have the CEO coming on and talking about, hey, we're bringing this back and actively engaging with the community and saying, hey, when you come to Red Lobster, it's all you can eat. I've been listening to you. So the more that brands can humanize themselves and become accessible, I think that's what's resonating in today's world. And then, brands that are mission led that I think do that well, Red Bull, Nike, they've been storytelling since the very beginning.
Yeah.
So those are always examples that I look for. They'd be dream partners for sure.
Well, the final question we ask everybody, why do you think Dhar Mann and Dhar Mann Studios is one of the best brands on earth?
Because we're always trying to get better every single day. At the end of the day, it's like, we don't think we're one of the best brands on earth. We think that we're a work in progress and that every day we set out a mission as to how can we be 1% better than we were the day before. And as long as you have that mindset of constant growth and forward advancement, that's what's ultimately going to help keep you ahead of the curve. I would say that in terms of our ethos, but at the end of the day, our brand is built on kindness. People don't walk around wearing signs on their shirt saying, I'm struggling to hold it all together. And so our content speaks to that person that might just needed to hear the right message, at the right time. And it's incredible how much of a difference that can make. So I'm very grateful to do what we do and to be on this podcast. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, the world needs more companies like that. The world needs more Dhar Manns. So appreciate you joining us. This has been such a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. It's so nice to meet you. That was awesome.
I'm going to say wow again. how many times can I say that in one episode?
Wow, just what a cool story of resilience and, you know, confidence in oneself, and like just a really cool guy.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think about Guy Raz in How I Built This and what he asks at the end of every show, which is, you know, how much of this is really hard work and sweat and everything that you put into it, and how much of it is luck. And I just think this is like the perfect confluence of the two, of just the people he had to meet, the things that had to happen, the timing of it all, and then just
well, and just the balls to go out and do it.
Yeah, to like just take the initiative, and to also be aware of the things that were happening, and recognizing, I think, ultimately that he was special at these various things, and some of the innovation, you know, bringing on somebody from MTV, and you know, what he said about,
like, I loved that was something that kind of came
through acquisition.
Yes, like even that, when you kind of see, when you're doing all the research for these shows and you get like the highlights of things and you don't know that story behind, like I would have just assumed they went after him, and it really was just this, like, they really just, he said bromance, like they loved each other, and he was like, why don't you just come work with me instead? It's awesome.
No, it's incredible. I think I something that, you know, we think about in our daily lives, but like not really, is just this notion of everybody is imperfect, and that is actually what makes us, you know, who we are, and not to kind of belittle the things, the failures, the bumps along the road, but actually appreciate them and grow from them, and recognize them for what they are. So just a very inspiring guy. Incredible to know that he kind of came from, you know, his upbringing and his family, his community, and, you know, marrying somebody very different than him, not knowing anything about makeup, but pursuing it anyway, you know, and ultimately really being a catalyst for changing the game, and being on the forefront of this convergence of media and entertainment is just really inspiring, truly.
Yeah. Truly. I know for me, as someone who's about to turn 34, I just will definitely take away that it's never too late, right? Like there's always time to totally figure out what, you're supposed to be doing, and, like, you know, go out and follow your dreams. And it's always a good reminder to have. So.
Well, and the brands that partner with him and his company and his team today are just going to be so lucky. I just think that it's such a great sort of platform and mission to be associated with. So I'm excited to see where they go on that front. I think partnerships are so right for a business like that. Great conversation, and hopefully we do a follow-up in, you know, a year or two, and say what's up and see
where they're at.
Where they're at.
And if you haven't watched a Dhar Mann video, find him on literally every channel you could imagine. But of course, his actual scripted content that we talked a lot about is on YouTube. And then we'll be on Samsung and Fox. So keep an eye out and go watch something.
We'll put everything else in the show notes. He's got, you know, his incredible new podcast that just launched. I think it's 5 episodes in, called What Happens Next. And then follow him on his socials as well. He does all this really great unscripted stuff that's really, really fun. As far as we are concerned, Hayley, where can people find Best Brands on Earth?
Yeah, don't forget to follow us also while you're online. You can follow us at Best Brands on Earth on Instagram and TikTok. You can find us at BBOE on YouTube. And we appreciate all of the comments. And, you know, as always, let us know what brands on Earth you think are the best and who you'd like to hear from. And we'd be more than happy to try to get them on the show.
Yeah, and let us know what you think. We always appreciate feedback. You know, in the spirit of Dhar, we are an imperfect and evolving show and entity. So we'd love to always, you know, hear any suggestions, feedback, anything like that. And then please subscribe, whether that is where you listen to podcasts or if you're watching us on YouTube, so that you never miss an episode. We deeply appreciate it. And tell a friend. Tell a friend.
Yeah. And don't forget, I went to Japan.
Yes. And don't forget, I really want to go to Japan.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Best Brands on Earth is a podcast from the Clios, hosted by Hayley Clover and Matt Kerbal, produced by Third Wall Creative. Original music for BBOE composed and produced by Brett Turner and Ian Walters. This has been Best Brands on Earth. Until next time.